Well, I'm just going to remember, since we have a movie star here, that it was a movie star, George Clooney, who really affected this election. I mean, Biden might still be in there if George Clooney, you know, talk about celebrities and how important they are. I don't think they're important in getting the voters to do something, but they sure were important.
So Joe Biden was totally fine, and I have no idea why he dropped out, and I never saw any problem the whole time I was in the White House.
Yeah.
Either you weren't in the room, you weren't paying attention, or you were lying to us. And the gap
in getting the party heads to finally do that.
This was another part, I think, of why people didn't trust Harris, because at the same time she's saying, hey, these things I said in 2019 that were kind of like left-wing crazy, I don't mean them anymore. Also,
ever wonder what happens when Hollywood elites get too full of themselves? George Clooney just found out the hard way when Bill Maher refused to let him use his show to fix his tanking reputation. Clooney's team kept pushing for an appearance after that disaster of a political ad. But Maher wasn't having it. He even started mocking Clooney behind the scenes, comparing his desperate pitches to auditioning for a pity party. Stick around to see exactly how Maher took him down.
And people just would come up to me, you know, the liberals, the ones who I'm not good enough for anymore because I'm just too concerned. Bill, stop making jokes about Biden's age. You're going to help Trump.
Gaslighting is so frustrating.
Right. And, you know, I called him, I said, you know, like a year before he dropped out, I said, you're going to be Ruth Bader Biden. That's what I kept calling. You're going to be the Ruth Bader Ginsburg of the party. Right. Like if I didn't mention it, no one would have noticed. All right.
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great. Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. Ever wonder what happens when a Hollywood golden boy tries to play political genius? Well, George Clooney just gave us a masterclass in how not to do it. His recent political ad wasn't just bad, it was the kind of disaster that makes publicists wake up in cold sweats at 3 a.m. Let's dig into this train wreck, shall we?
Oh? Well, maybe you should. Sorry. Well, that's my feeling. Losers look in the mirror, okay? You know, yeah. I mean, you know what? We're going to hear about both tonight on the panel and throughout the whole show, the winners, the losers. My message to the losers, losers look in the mirror. For months, Democrats have been saying, how is this even close? And they're right, it wasn't.
Clooney, thinking his celebrity status automatically qualified him as a political influencer, released an ad that was supposed to showcase his activism and deep political thoughts. Instead, it showcased just how disconnected he is from planet Earth. The ad featured Clooney staring intensely into the camera, delivering lines like, "Before you cast your vote in this election, think about how it'll impact the people you care about the most." Wow, George, groundbreaking stuff there. Who would have thought voting affects people? Someone give this man a Nobel Prize. The public response wasn't just negative, it was a complete massacre. Critics called it a complete nosedive down the staircase of public opinion.
A lot of people are freaking. You know what? I opened the window today. The sun was still shining. The birds were still singing. My gardener was packing for Mexico. That's different. Please, we had an election. A lot of you can sit down. So upset this guy is. He's not going to sit again. I did not vote for the winner. We'll see what the winners do now. They won. Now they have reality they have to deal with. You know, we'll see what they do. See if they live up to their word. Trump says he's going to deport 12 million people. How are you going to get 12 million people back into Mexico?
Imagine Clooney in his Italian villa, probably sipping espresso while scrolling through thousands of comments tearing his ad to shreds. That's gotta hurt worse than Batman and Robin reviews. The whole thing came across like a rich guy who's never waited for a paycheck telling regular folks how to feel about politics. It's like when your wealthy uncle who's never taken public transportation tries to lecture you about the economy during Thanksgiving dinner. Nobody's buying it, Uncle George. Social media had an absolute field day with this one. Twitter users were competing to come up with the most creative ways to mock poor Georgie. One person wrote, "Is Clooney auditioning to be America's political dad? Because we're all filing for emancipation." Another commented, "I've seen more authentic political messaging from a fortune cookie. Ouch." The backlash hit harder than an espresso machine falling on your head. People weren't just criticizing the message, they were questioning whether Clooney had any right to be delivering it in the first place. The general consensus was clear. Stick to acting, George, and leave the political commentary to people who don't have 8 vacation homes. But here's where it gets really juicy.
Big. Today he called the Secretary of State in Georgia and he asked him to lose him $11,000. They could not conceive of a second Trump term, but they should have. When does America ever turn down seconds? I mean, come on. But, you know, he has an amazing coalition. He kept the old crowd that likes him. He got a lot of new voters. He got a lot of people who say they just want to see what he'll do. I call this the get the cat high vote.
Instead of laying low and waiting for the storm to pass, Clooney decided the solution was, wait for it, more public exposure. His brilliant recovery plan? A media tour with Bill Maher's show as the cornerstone. Because nothing fixes a "you're out of touch with regular Americans" problem like appearing on an HBO show watched primarily by coastal elites. Clooney's team, apparently sharing his disconnect from reality, made not 1, not 2, but 3 desperate attempts to book him on Maher's show. Can you imagine being the poor publicist making these calls? Hi, yes, it's George Clooney's team again. Yes, I know you already said no twice, but what if he promises to be extra charming this time? The second pitch from Team Clooney promised explosive revelations, as if Bill Maher would suddenly start salivating at the prospect of giving Clooney a platform for more tone-deaf commentary. Maher, being the straight shooter he is, wasn't having any of it. He believed that putting Clooney on his show would alienate his audience faster than you can say out-of-touch Hollywood elite. Not taking the hint, Clooney's team made a third attempt, suggesting a live Q&A format. At this point, you've got to admire their persistence, if not their social awareness. Maher, probably wondering if he was being pranked, declined once again. Behind the scenes, Maher reportedly mocked these repeated pitches, calling them pathetic and comparing Clooney's desperation to auditioning for a pity party. Can you imagine being a fly on the wall for that conversation? Maher probably had his production team in stitches as he read each increasingly desperate pitch aloud. The whole situation perfectly encapsulates the bubble that celebrities like Clooney live in. When you're surrounded by yes people who laugh at all your jokes and applaud your every thought, you start believing your opinion on everything matters. Then reality hits, and suddenly you're being rejected by Bill Maher while the internet roasts you like a coffee bean. And there you have it, folks. When Hollywood's golden boy came knocking, Bill Maher simply wasn't having it. Clooney's team is now scrambling to find anyone willing to help rebuild his tarnished image, but they're hitting walls everywhere they turn. Even Howard Stern, the king of controversial comebacks, is keeping his distance as his team worries about the negative vibes surrounding Clooney these days. This saga exposes a truth about modern celebrity. Even with Clooney's dazzling smile and charming head tilt, you can't just act your way out of a PR nightmare. The days when stars could control their narrative with a well-placed interview are over. Maher deserves props for standing his ground instead of letting his show become a celebrity car wash where the rich and famous can rinse away their mistakes. In a world of yes men, Maher choosing authenticity over celebrity access is exactly why his audience sticks around.